Hey there, want to make your voice heard at a Board of Supervisors meeting? We're all ears. Here's how you can get involved. First, hop online and look at the agendas. This will give you the scoop on what's coming up before the board. Each agenda item includes a brief description of the issue, the recommendations, and potential impacts. If you need more detail, check out the detailed reports online. Those are called board letters. Then, decide if you want to speak at Tuesday's general legislative session or Wednesday's land use session. You'll have 3 opportunities to have your say. Let's start with non-agenda public comment. This is your chance to talk about things that aren't on the agenda, but try and keep your topic related to county government. For non-agenda public comments, you can speak at either the Tuesday or Wednesday session, but not both. So, pick your day accordingly. And keep in mind, the board can't act on the spot. They'll refer your comments to the Chief Administrative Officer, who will look into the issue. Last thing, the board will hear from the first 10 speakers, 5 in person and 5 by phone at the beginning of the session. Then all the remaining speakers will get their chance to speak after the discussion items. During the consent agenda, the board handles a bunch of routine items with 1 vote. If you want to comment on an item, keep it simple. For example, I'm John Doe speaking on item 5, and I agree with approving the contract. Discussion items are the main event where the board debates before making a decision. They'll hear from supporters first, then those against. And if you have documents, hand them to the deputy clerk when it's your turn to speak at the podium. If you want to speak, you need a speaker slip. White slips are for non-agenda comments. Turn these in before we hear from the first speaker. Green or pink slips are for specific items. Get these in before public comment begins. And please turn in your speaker slip early. If you don't turn it in before it's due, you won't be able to speak to the board. Now, you get 2 minutes to speak, but if lots of people want to talk, it might get cut to 1 minute. So, you might want to consider writing 2 sets of comments, one for 2 minutes, another one for 1. That way, if time's cut, you won't be scrambling. There's also a countdown clock at the podium to keep you on track. Once you're at the podium, stay on topic. Stick to the current agenda item. If you stray off topic, you might get a gentle nudge to get back to the point. Keep your comments related to the agenda item's recommendations because that's what the board is relying on to make a decision. Also, speak directly to the board. They're the ones making the decision. When your time's up, it's up. Overstaying might mean getting muted or even asked to leave. Now for some ground rules. For safety, keep aisles and doorways clear. If there isn't a seat, head across the hall to room 302 or the 4th floor balcony to watch the meeting. Respect is huge. Everyone should feel heard. That means you, other speakers, and the Board of Supervisors. Disruptive behavior gets 1 warning, and after that, a deputy sheriff might show you the door. So let's keep it respectful. Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. Remember, we're all here to make a difference.
Good morning. I'd like to call the March 12th, 2025 San Diego County Board of Supervisors Land Use and Housing Authority meeting to order. I might be looking a little taller today to y'all. I haven't shared this before, so please bear with me. Ryan, please call the roll for today's session.
Thank you, Supervisor Anderson. Tenant Commissioner Barry?
Here.
Tenant Commissioner Higgins?
Here.
Supervisor Anderson?
Here.
Supervisor Montgomery Stepp?
Here.
Supervisor Desmond?
Here.
And Vice Chair Lawson Reamer.
Thank you. Now we'll turn to County Council for the report on actions taken in closed session yesterday.
Good morning. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session on March 11th, 2025 from 4:33 p.m. to 4:42 p.m. All 4 supervisors were present. The board took no reportable actions. End of report.
Thank you very much for that. We will now proceed with the non-agenda public communication. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matter within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on the meeting agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the CAO. Under the board rules, speakers can only speak once per meeting for non-agenda public communications, either at yesterday's general legislative session or today's land use legislative session, but not both sessions. Speakers may select which session to address the board at their own convenience. Let's go ahead and get started with those. And we normally, if we have 20 or more speakers, we limit it to 1 minute. But today, we're going to go ahead. I don't know how many speakers we have, but we'll go ahead and give them the full 3 minutes.
2 minutes.
2. Thank you.
No problem.
I still need steering wheels. So 2 minutes.
No problem. And Supervisor Anderson, we're going to be hearing all public comments at the beginning of the meeting today, correct?
Yes, please.
All right, so we'll be hearing from all non-agenda public comment this morning. We do have 18 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 6 individuals in person and 12 requesting by phone. For those that have requested to speak by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using those instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers, and in accordance with the we're going to skip that part because we're going to hear from all speakers this morning. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record. And I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals, and that would be, I believe it's Sharok, Daniel Sullivan, and Cesar Javier. You have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good morning. My name is Sharok Sadat Nejat. I live in District 4. In June of 2023, my father passed away in District 4. The person that found his body is his sibling brother. He's changed his stories on how he found the body of my father and what occurred that day with interactions with the police. Also, on April 10th of last year, I video recorded a conversation almost 2 hours long with my stepfather. He confessed to murder related to my family. There's a total of 4 bodies. 3 of the bodies, the confession is related to 3 of the bodies. I've taken the videos to the district attorney's office here in San Diego, and they refuse to take the videos and document them and investigate. It's the same thing with the sheriff's department and the police department. The district attorney's office has told me numerous times that I need to get creative for the police to take a report from me. And I'm a Muslim Iranian. I believe that part of what they're trying to do is to manufacture somebody to have a criminal behavior, a terrorist kind of a behavior. They deprive me of sleeping. I cannot rest. I get vandalized. My cars, either the tires get slashed, or the air is released from the tires. The confession that I have of the murder implicates somebody under the color of law. I've taken this video several times to count. I've brought them here to the county, to District 4. This has been going on for like a year and a half. And what do? Am I supposed to impress the police officer by acting violently so they would take a report? Because this is exactly what they're molding. They're molding a violent behavior. And this is part of it's systematic.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up.
Ready? Good morning, Honorable Board of Supervisors. My name is Daniel Sullivan, a San Diego native, born and raised. I'm here to bring to your attention serious violations within the county's property tax sale division, which appear to be unlawful and warrant immediate review, perhaps under the Chief Administrative Officer. The tax sale office is operating in direct violation of California law, disregarding property owners' rights and denying due process. My case is not likely an isolated incident. Is a representative example of systemic failures and a culture of inappropriate conduct that appears to have overtaken the department. The county intends to take my property and sell it at auction this Friday, despite failing to follow due process and provide proper notice. When I discovered the situation and offered to pay my taxes under a payment plan, my request was summarily dismissed. The county's own response letter acknowledges this failure to follow due process, yet they refuse to correct their mistake. On June 6th of 2022, 2.5 years ago, I filed a homestead declaration with the county, the clearest legal method to inform them of my residence and contact info. After this date, until February 19th, 2025, the county continued to send tax bills and delinquency notices to an outdated address, despite having the correct address on file. On February 19th, a couple weeks ago, a notice of sale was taped to my door, informing me the county would be selling the property on the 14th, with less than a month to act. On February 24th, after reviewing the situation, I sent a cease and desist letter via email, certified mail, and in person, demanding a response within 3 business days. 2 weeks later, the county finally responded, denying my request while simultaneously providing the documentation that confirmed they failed to follow due process. In essence, the response was, here's the documentation that supports your position, and despite that, we're going to sell your property anyway. This is a flagrant and willful disregard for statute and due process. I am asking this board to immediately withdraw my property from tax.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up. As the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite the next 2 speakers, Perito Javier and Michael Brando.
Go ahead.
Good morning. I am Perito A. Javier, victim of the toxic and gases. Ceramics manufacturing and kiln operation has been operating as home occupation business since 1984 at 5238 Streamview Drive, San Diego, California 92105, a neighborhood dedicated as residential zone. It is known to be producing toxicity, and that's poison gases from its kiln, fumes, other chemicals, particulates, and dust. The potential impact to health and safety is real, and so we sought help starting on June 13, 2021 from the Police, Fire, Hazard Materials Department, Air Pollution Control District, City District 9 Councilman office, but they cannot stop the operation simply because the owner has business permit. City Code Enforcement Division responded through Supervisor Elizabeth Brennan as follows: no violation, Rule 11 exempt, City Municipal Code, get the lawyer, land use and environment to validate.
Thank you. Your time is up. Hear from our next speaker.
Cesar Javier. The City Code Enforcement referred us to Air Pollution Control District, County Land Use, County Environment and Health, Sheriff Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board, just a few days ago. County Hazard Materials referred us to the police. Board Supervisor referred us to APCD through Madam Nora Vargas on her last meeting. And I think Board Supervisor Rimmer is cognizant to our issue. Ma'am Rimmer, good morning. You were with the Air Pollution Control Governing Board meeting last time, and I believe you have that inkling to recognize that the Air Pollution Control District is a job provider, not air pollution warrior. That's a big difference. One of the speakers confirmed that, Director Forbes, thank you, because we have 50,000 jobs from manufacturing. The ceramics manufacturing is hazardous business that is placed, located, constructed, and operated in a residential zone. That's the issue, ma'am, land use. That's the issue. It should not be there because it's not in accord with health, safety, and public welfare. In fact, the facilities has not even that building code standard. The offset with the common property line is not 5 foot, which is one of the pillars of home elements. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, sir. And as Michael is coming to the podium, I'd like to invite our final in-person speaker, Shane Harris.
Michael, for the record, the meeting began late at 9:06. Tara Lawson-Remer arrived later at 9:16. And wow, I wish I could have been up here while Joel was temporarily chairing. Joel would be a magnificent chair. Why? He was sitting up straight, erect posture, looking at the speakers, paying attention. And that is completely opposite of what normally happens, because he's normally over there eating or scrolling the phone. I know lots of speakers have talked about cell phone addiction. Now I'd like to talk about the horses very quickly. Zora Fahim, Los Angeles Alliance for Animals, has been here many times to talk about the Artesian Road horses, and it's been stated multiple times from different people around here that there was never a problem. Everything's fine, nothing's wrong. Well, a researcher, that young lady Truth, has been digging into this, and she called in for her non-agenda yesterday and addressed this. And what she found is the exact opposite of what Jim and other people on this board have said. Now, that's not a surprise to me because of the number of lies that are told here. Tara has often said that, well, she said at least one time, and I really applaud your honesty, Tara, that these meetings are all political theater. It's just political theater. And you very clearly said that we never get to talk about what's really going on. Wow. Also, one other recommendation, please fire Claudia Silva, who's here at the Tuesday meetings. She makes, with salary and benefits, nearly over $600,000 a year. That's $54 an hour, totally inappropriate for the misinformation she's passing out.
morning, Supervisors. My name is Shane Harris, the President and founder of the People's Association of Justice Advocates. I'm here first and foremost to acknowledge Kim Gerardina, who's the head of HHS now, and in saying that we are not doing what we need to do in regard to reforming the foster care system. And I'm looking forward to putting pressure back on this board and moving back the power and the weight of the community to ensure that we get the reforms that are necessary. And I will talk more about that in the coming months. Today I'm here in regard to AB 379, state legislation that will improve the conditions regarding trafficking survivors, specifically our children who have been sex trafficked. AB 379 strengthens the provisions of a bill that I was championed last year, SB 1414. And Jim, thank you for your advocacy on this subject matter. That increased penalties for those who buy children for sex across the state of California. Democrats in the state legislature, however, tried to diminish the bill and take it down to age 15, arguing that ages 16 and 17-year-olds are old enough to make decisions. I don't know where that came from. It's ridiculous. But this new legislation will ensure that 16 and 17-year-olds are included in that provision. This morning, my office issued a request to Supervisor Montgomery Stepp, to Supervisor Anderson, and Supervisor Tara Lawson-Raymer, the chair, and Jim Desmond, requesting that you bring forth a resolution in partnership with my office, who is the sponsor of this resolution, working with you to bring forth a resolution asking the county to support AB 379, which will ensure that 16 and 17-year-olds are included in the state criminal statute regarding child sex trafficking. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, we are hearing all non-agenda public comment right now. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted. You will then hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream. And we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Oh, thank you. Good morning. This is Michael Fujimori. I'm calling to talk about the horses at the Artesian Road Ranch. I'm very concerned about the conditions that these horses are being forced to endure. They have been neglected and are not being cared for in a humane manner. And I'm asking that these horses and dogs be removed from the property for their protection. There have been numerous documented incidences of animal cruelty and neglect, including being fed moldy hay and currently having no protection from the rain. So please take action before it's too late and take these poor suffering animals away so they can be cared for in a humane manner. Animals deserve to be protected and cared for. And also, Board of Supervisors, please remember, on Election Day, voters care about animals and are going to remember who protected them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Annie Abram, non-agenda item.
Oh, you can just proceed with your comments.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors and Supervisor Desmond. And my name is Annie Abram, and I am so alarmed and overwhelmed that we have to keep coming back for the same issue. Despite the fact that we keep pleading that there should be, a true welfare check, no matter how many check reports are coming back, it seems that we only keep getting a facade, a fake news that, yes, everything is all right. In the meantime, horses and dogs in the Artesian Road are suffering. They're literally suffering and living in hell. They're trapped. In nature, these animals have ways to find themselves a shelter from all elements, and they will find healthy vegetation to eat, not moldy hay that is on their feces. These animals are trapped. Imagine being locked up and having no choice. In the meantime, these animals, the reports that are coming back saying that, oh, everything is perfectly fine. Please do a real welfare check. Remove these animals right away. At this point, I do not think after all these reports, fake reports back and forth, need to be continued. The animals need to be removed. Imagine a child eating moldy place. Imagine being in a moldy house. They would be reported. Remember where welfare checks from the roads similar to this by Director Vaughn Morris has been done. The report came back, oh, everything is fine.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Lori Palladino, non-agenda public comment. Good morning. We are calling in today once again, as we have several times in the past, to request help for the horses on Artesian Road. These horses are out in the rain. In accordance with the law, animals must have protection against the elements. That is considered to be humane treatment. The elderly horses languishing outside do not have adequate and necessary protection against the rain or windbreak. We have all experienced high winds and rain, and we know how much we would suffer if left outside with no shelter to experience this unrelenting weather with no protection. Horses in the wild seek shelter against the elements, instinctually. The same is true for horses residing here in the county. There have been reports these horses have been eating moldy hay. That is disastrous for their health. I request a welfare check from a board-certified third-party equine veterinary expert on this search to ensure the horses are eating fresh and not moldy hay. We ask all the horses and dogs be removed immediately to safety. Real welfare checks are needed to assess the conditions in which these animals live. That includes checking the quality of the food and hay they are given. Welfare checks on the road are unacceptable. Animal protection laws must be properly enforced to keep all animals safe. They deserve nothing less. Don't leave them out there to suffer until they finally pass away, which is the only relief they get. We will continue to call in until there is resolution in favor of these suffering animals. Remove the horses and dogs from Artesian Road now, while there is still a chance for them to thrive elsewhere. We will continue to call in until we hear that something has been done to help these animals, and we will not give up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Amit Alesia, and I'm a local resident here in San Diego County. Like the other callers that have called before, I'm calling about the horses on Artesia Road. I think it's been over a year since Los Angeles Alliance for Animals has been coming here to the San Diego County Board and trying to urge the county board and the county animal services to do something about these horses. Unfortunately, the welfare checks that the county is currently doing from the road appear not to be enough. And as the other people have said, that the horses are not protected from shelter, they're eating moldy hay, and something has to be done about this. So we're requesting, please, to have somebody go into the property and do a thorough check to make sure the horses are okay and check for their well-being. And with the ultimate goal, obviously, of trying to get these horses off property and into a sanctuary. So thank you so much, and please work with Los Angeles Alliance for Animals to try to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Michelle, Deborah Barkley, Kathleen Flannery, Steve Lujan, Eric Bodner, Tara Lawson-Remer, and I know she's looking down, and the Department of Animal Services. These are the above people that have blood on their hands. I have spoken to the County Board of Supervisors for over a year. We have not seen any documentation that shows they have gone out to investigate these horses in Rancho Santa Fe, especially on their property, instead of looking at the horses from the other side of the fence. Welfare checks from the road are not acceptable and are not deemed adequate proof. I call upon the FBI County General to enter the property and examine these horses for full and complete inspection. We need an equine third-party veterinarian too. Horses are dying eating moldy hay with no protection against the scorching heat or the cold winter rain, while Deborah Barkley is sitting in her $6 million other house in Rancho Santa Fe. I have heard that the people are taking care of the horses have been found on Craigslist, and that's not a good source of expertise employees. I believe Jeff Network, with his $1 billion contract for Pure Water, is holding the strings to adequate investigation due to conflict of interest or just corruption. I want everything I said on record to be reported, and if nothing happens, I will, and I promise you, go to the FBI and get this reported, because nobody's doing anything. Nobody's opened a case on this. There's no proof. Nobody has entered the property. Nobody has knocked on the doors to find out who's taking care of these horses, let alone the dogs running around Rancho Santa Fe biting kids.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett. The Board recently highlighted early healthy dental habits so children can learn to eat better, feel better, and do best in school. Supervisor Reamer asserted that a child is admitted to hospital daily for dental-related issues. The county's Live Well program has a vision of safe, healthy, and thriving communities to improve health outcomes for all children. Their staffers visit county planning groups to educate on tobacco harms, but assiduously avoid mentioning marijuana. The county's goals, Live Well goals, should be evaluated for consistency, as they are antithetical to the Board's claims to care about the health of children or the environment because they support commercial marijuana businesses. Children are poisoned daily from dangerous marijuana products, admitted to ERs for mental health problems, tooth dissolving, scromiting, and marijuana-involved crashes. Seniors are admitted to ERs for serious and sometimes life-threatening prescription drug interactions due to marijuana with their prescription met. The county's marijuana environmental impact review identified 52 environmental impacts, offering 5 EIR alternatives. Alternative 1 was the only one without environmental impacts. The remaining alternatives had significant, identifiable, and unmitigatable impacts. Public comment is through March 31st, and staff is supposed to respond prior to a decision. Why then has the county already written the regulatory codes? Why then has it already allocated $28,000 each for 10 equity grants? Supervisor of Santa Barbara said if he had one piece of advice to offer San Diego, it would be don't do this. The Board has an opportunity to prevent the oncoming train wreck of expanding marijuana commercialization in the unincorporated.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Zora Fahim, President and Founder of Los Angeles Alliance for Animals. I'd like to read into the county record that Vaughn Maurice, Director of Animal Services, is doing welfare checks on Artesian Road from the road, which are reports that you're receiving that everything is satisfactory on this ranch when it is not. If the County of San Diego is going to do welfare checks from the road on Artesian Road, then why are you not implementing CPS workers to conduct welfare checks from the road? This behavior, County Board of Supervisors, is not only unacceptable, but it's intolerable. Why are the horses on Artesian Road potentially eating moldy hay, which can be detrimental to their health and well-being? This behavior, County Board of Supervisors, is not only unacceptable, but it is intolerable. Why is the horses on Artesian Road in their stalls 24 hours a day? This behavior, County Board of Supervisors, is not only unacceptable, but it is intolerable. Why is Vaughn Maurice downplaying cruelty cases such as the one in District 5 where DAS allowed birds to die due to starvation? This behavior, County Board of Supervisors, is not only unacceptable, but is intolerable. Why has Deputy District Attorney Eric Bodner still not prosecuted the Artesian Road horse abuse case? This behavior, County Board of Supervisors, is not only unacceptable, it is intolerable. We need the county to ensure that the corruption of San Diego County of Animal Services is addressed with aggressive action, and I have confidence that Andrew Strong will do so, and that the horses will be removed from Artesian Road immediately, and that all the animal cruelty cases are revisited and addressed in accordance with state law, which DAS has failed in doing so. Thank you for all that you do for our county and for allowing all the public comment speakers to speak at the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hi, this is Susan Cohn. I'm calling also about the horses and dogs on Artesian Road. And with all that I have learned, I don't understand why, after all this time, the proper examination of these animals has not taken place. I don't know, what these people are taught when they're told to go out and check on the animals. If they're told it's okay to, be outside the fence, but it's not. You need a proper board-certified veterinarian and an equine veterinarian to go in there and take care of these animals and make sure their health, make sure that they're okay, and get them off that property. This is horrifying. I mean, and unacceptable. I advocate for animals, all the time. And I cannot understand why, after all this time, these animals have not been taken care of. And it's got to stop, and it's got to happen. And whoever, this is illegal, basically. It's called abuse, animal abuse, and animal abuse is illegal. And these people that are supposedly own these animals need to be prosecuted for what they're doing. So I really hope that at some point in the very near future, say this week, this is resolved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. I have always, as a public health educator, applauded the county's vision regarding creating a healthy, safe, and thriving community. And your recognition that 3 behaviors contribute to the 4 diseases that result in over 50% of the deaths in San Diego County, actually 57% of the deaths in the county. And that these 3 behaviors are poor nutrition, lack of physical activity, and tobacco use. And in this case, smoking and vaping tobacco, and we should add marijuana. We appreciate as public health educators that you recognize the role of tobacco, smoke, and vape in the health, affecting the health of those who smoke and vape and those around them, and that secondhand and third-hand smoke are serious issues for those who live near a smoker. And now the research suggests that smoke and vape, be it tobacco or marijuana in the public space, drastically affects the health of other people. So it is surprising to us that you would encourage businesses that sell smoking and vaping products in the backcountry, considering the cost that it is to the county. And particularly, we find it startling that the county would want to have more marijuana businesses whose products are smoked and vaped in our unincorporated area. Our county planning group is appalled with the recent environmental impact report that has been released because of all the environmental impacts that affect health. The quality of our air needs a greater emphasis, and the role of secondhand smoke in affecting how we can live and play in our community and how the health of our children are affected is heavily neglected.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a mother of 3 young adults and a county planning group attendee. I'm calling you because our family and my planning group feel that the recent environmental impact report regarding bringing even more marijuana businesses to the unincorporated areas neglects serious components of the environment that matter to us. And that is how our community looks to us and how it is perceived by others. More cannabis, smoking, vaping, and consumption makes our community unattractive, smelly, and unsafe. And research suggests that if children grow up in communities where alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana businesses are common, their perception of risk of using those drugs will be muted. This is a very unwise time to increase the potential for more marijuana use among young adults. And since I have young adult children, I would remind this Board of Supervisors that the National Safety Council FACT has announced repeatedly that intoxicating cannabis products can have a major impact on safety on our roadways, especially in winter weather when it brings rain, winds, and fog to our back county roads. Words cannot describe the loss of a loved one to a drunk or marijuana-impaired driver. The cascading effect on these roadway deaths are staggering. Does the Board of Supervisors understand how our environment and safety would change by enabling more marijuana, smoking, vaping, and consumption? Does the Board of Supervisors really care? Thank you for hearing my concerns this morning.
Thank you. And we will go to our final non-agenda public comment.
Good morning. My name is Kate Ione. I've called many times. It's been over a year since I've called and sat in the room there to discuss the horses on Artesian Road, just like many of the other people there that have called and have shown up. And nothing has been done. A year ago, we were crying about the rain and the fact that they have no shelter. In the summer, we were crying about the fact that it was so scalding hot and they had no shelter. You've watched the videos. Zora has told you details. She's on top of all of this and what's going on, and nothing has happened. We need a real welfare check by a real equine vet that needs to go in the property.
Kate, it sounds like we might have lost you. You might have muted your phone. We can't hear you. Kate? Seeing no response from that constituent. Vice Chair, that concludes non-agenda public communication for this morning.
Okay, thank you very much. There were a number of folks who called in regarding the horses on Artesian Road. So I was hoping we could get an update. I do know that I personally think the whole board is very concerned about animal well-being and animal welfare. I know we've asked multiple times for this to be investigated, and I know we've done so, but I think it would be helpful for us to all have a better understanding of what's been done so far and any limitations on kind of continuing any further investigations and any next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of Andrew Strong, the General Manager for the Public Safety Group, as well as Animal Services Director Vaughn Morris. I do have a statement here and have been in communication with Andrew, which I'll share with you all. Animal Services is actively monitoring the well-being of animals on the property at Artesian Road. A team inspected the property in November, which I did confirm with Andrew was on site with an equine veterinarian.
So that was in November. They were on site with the veterinarian.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
And animal control officers also conducted several follow-up visits in February. These were from the road, just a confirmation of the status of the animals. Officers confirmed that all animals appeared to continue to be in good condition during those site visits, and the owners remained in voluntary compliance with applicable laws. I did want to also note that these inspections follow public nuisance charges filed against the property owner by the District Attorney's Office in November. Those charges stem from complaints by neighbors that the owner's dogs frequently escaped from the property and were aggressive to community members. One of the dogs was removed at that time as part of the action. I did want to also share that in confirmation with Andrew, we continue to monitor this site and we will be back on site in the near future.
Can you give a little further details about the dog incidents or the dog investigation? The DA filed charges, removed the dogs. When was that?
That was in November.
So there were complaints from neighbors. The DA filed charges related to nuisance, and one dog was removed.
That's correct, Vice Chair.
And it sounds like we'll be back there. And when is the next on-site visit going to happen?
Vice Chair, I'm not sure if the specifics are identified or could be shared publicly just because of the confidentiality as well as the need to not necessarily identify a date, but to show up at an unidentified time. So I'm not able to share that, but I assure you it will be in the near term. We'll continue to update the board and have an update for the public at the next meeting.
Okay, so sometime in the not too distant future, there will be a follow-up visit.
We have the legal ability to get on site in the very near term.
Okay, that's extremely helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that update. So, okay, well, thank you very much for our public comments. So now we will move on to item E, Housing Authority agenda. I would like to welcome our tenant commissioners, Bianca Berry and Nilsa Higgins, to the dais. So thank you so much for being here. Good to have you. This item is a very long title. I will not read the whole thing. It is the notice public hearing adopting a resolution of the Housing Authority of the County of San Diego, Board of Commissioners approving the Public Housing Authority 5-year agency plan, etc. I will now hand it over to the county team for a presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Lesson-Reamer and members of the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. The County Housing Authority administers the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Public Housing Program, and several other rental assistance programs serving more than 25,000 residents in the county. As a housing authority, we are required to prepare a 5-year and annual agency plan to report out on the progress of meeting our goals, update policies, and establish strategies for addressing housing needs for our most vulnerable San Diegans. Today's action requests your approval of the agency plans and other authorities related to the administration of the Public Housing Program. Today's actions are aligned with the county's framework for ending homelessness by providing permanent, affordable housing to vulnerable residents. They also support the 5P solution framework established in the county's housing blueprint by investing in the promotion, production, and preservation of affordable housing units. Here with me today are David Estrella, Director of Housing and Community Development Services, and Nick Martinez, Assistant Director. I'll now turn it over to David.
Thank you, Kim. The County Housing Authority administers the Housing Choice Voucher Program, public housing, and several other rental assistance programs throughout the unincorporated areas and in 13 of the 18 cities within San Diego County. These programs serve over 11,000 households monthly. Participants include working families, veterans, seniors, persons with disabilities, and those previously experiencing homelessness. Over $18 million each month is contributed into the local economy through payments to over 4,000 participating landlords. Funding levels for these programs are subject to the federal budget, which has not yet been approved. The agency plan is a comprehensive guide to a housing authority's programs, policies, operations, and strategies. The 5-year plan establishes the housing authority's goals and objectives. This year, we are presenting our new goals for the upcoming 5-year cycle. The annual plan contains progress on meeting the goals and outlines our new activities for the next fiscal year. The annual plan also includes 2 policy documents, the Housing Choice Voucher Program Administrative Plan and the Public Housing Program Admissions and Continued Occupancy Policy. Together, these 2 documents describe the policies the County Housing Authority has adopted in each program. In developing the 5-year and annual agency plan, the Housing Authority conducted various community engagement activities to ensure the voice of the customer was considered. The plan was presented to the Resident Advisory Board, which includes program participants and public housing residents. We consulted with community partners, including Legal Aid, the San Diego Housing Federation, and the Southern California Rental and Housing Association. The draft plans were posted on the Housing and Community Development Services website for a 45-day public review and comment period. The comment period and hearing were noticed in various publications in multiple languages as shown on this slide. Additionally, we email and sent to over 117,000 recipients, and information was posted on the Engage San Diego website. Engage San Diego website had over 1,000 visitors. As of today, 4 comments have been received. These comments will not require changes to the plan, but will be included in the final submission. I'll now turn it over to Nick to provide additional details on the plans and other recommendations.
Thank you, David. This slide shows some of the accomplishments over the past 5 years in support of the goals included in the 2020 plan. This includes applied for and received 830 new rental assistance vouchers. We awarded 475 project-based voucher units at 14 sites, and we graduated 22 participants from the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. These families achieved financial, educational, and employment-related goals, reducing the amount of assistance paid on their behalf. The following are proposed new goals for the next 5 years. Goal 1, increase access to affordable housing opportunities and housing-related services for all residents. Goal 2, enhance community engagement and quality of life. Goal 3, ensure equity and justice in our operations and services. And Goal 4, continually strive for exceptional customer service. These goals are in alignment with the county's strategic initiatives and were developed in consultation with community partners and stakeholders. In addition, the annual plan outlines activities that the Housing Authority will be undertaking or expanding in the upcoming fiscal year. These include continuing to expand the use of PBVs to support affordable and permanent supportive housing, and converting to a new case management system which will enhance the customer experience for participants and landlords while increasing efficiency. We also intend to take advantage of an established HUD process to financially reposition our public housing program. This process will maximize opportunities to draw down as much funding as possible to maintain and modernize our 4 public housing sites located in Chula Vista. Staff will return to the board later this year to provide more information and obtain related authorizations to complete this process. In addition to approval of the agency plan, the Housing Authority must have an approved 5-year public housing capital fund action plan in order to receive grant revenue from HUD. The grant amount for 2025 is estimated to be $360,000 based on previous year allocations. This year's funding will supplement operating expenses and go toward energy-efficient projects, supporting the county's sustainability goals. Another recommendation is requesting authority to re-procure a contract for property management services for the public housing sites. The current contract expires at the end of this year. I'll now turn it back over to David.
Today's requested actions include receiving public testimony, approving the agency plan, and authorizing submission of the plan and all required certifications to HUD. In addition, if approved, today's actions will also authorize the County Housing Authority to apply for additional program funding or vouchers as opportunities become available. Also, authorize the Director of the Department of Purchasing and Contracting to issue a competitive solicitation for property management services and award a contract for the public housing sites. And finally, authorize the County Housing Authority to explore the financial repositioning of the public housing. This concludes staff presentation. We're available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Do any of my colleagues or our commissioners have any questions before we go to public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will go to public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 10 total requests to speak, 3 individuals in person, and 7 requesting to speak by phone. Also, I'd like to note for the record, we did receive 2 e-comments on this item. Both were in opposition. For any individual that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. Invite forward Robin Smith, Carlos Blackman, and Sarah Flores Castro. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the audio record.
Hello, my name is Robin Smith. I might start crying, sorry. I just want to let everybody know that I actually have been homeless for 4 years. During that time, I was hit in the head with a hole the size of bigger than half a dollar, 15 stitches in my head. However, I am very blessed. I do have a car and I do have a job. Even with my full-time job, I cannot get into the cheapest studios I've been applying for. I don't make enough money. With all that being said, if we lose, there's hundreds hundreds of children, elderly like myself. I have medical and mental issues. I have PTSD from being hit in the head. I have other medical and mental issues. Yet I am forced to live in my car because I cannot afford rent. I have gotten to meet many homeless people that are in the same situations, including elderly, children, and adults, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart desperately. We need the help of housing. If we lose that, there's thousands out there that are homeless. If we lose their help, if we lose that, it's going to be 3 times worse. More children, more adults, more elderly on the streets, more people with mental and physical problems. We need them. Please don't deny their help. Please. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good morning, board. My name is Carlos Blackman. I'm a disabled veteran from the Marine Corps. I'm just asking, what do you guys plan to do about the vouchers? When I was signed up for the different programs that I rate, I had no idea about them. Once Marine Corps and the state of California deemed me disabled, not able to go for the sheriff's department, anything. I applied to all these jobs, passed all the tests, but my doctors wouldn't release me because I am disabled. I messed myself up serving this country, and I'm trying to find out what you guys plan to do for the disabled people. I'm eligible for the Section 8 voucher, but every time I go to the office and ask the question, I face the possibility if I raise my voice or I get upset, they feel threatened or intimidated. So I'm just coming here to ask you guys for help. What do you plan to do? Because I'm eligible, and the property that I live in, they take the voucher, but several occasions they've tried to evict me illegally. They haven't been successful, and they take the voucher, and I'm just trying to find out what I can do. I'm a single father. I have 2 13-year-olds that I'm taking care of by force. Their mothers just, gave them to me, when they were little. So I'm trying to keep from having us to be on the street. So I'm trying to find out if you guys can grant me my voucher or whatever the case may be, because it looked like I have like 2 more years. I was given false information before about when I signed up for public assistance, food stamps. I should have been on the list in 2008, but I got on the list in 2012 after so many different people told me so many different things. So I'm trying to see what you guys can do to help me before my kids and I are on the street. Thank you.
Kim, do you think you can have someone go speak from our team to go speak with this gentleman right now?
Yes, definitely, and also with Ms. Smith as well.
Okay, sir, someone will come talk with you. Okay, Kim will send someone. Thank you.
And as the next speaker is coming forward, I'd like to invite our final in-person speaker, LaDonna, I believe it's Valderrama. If you can line up on the arrows. And then Sarah, you're up next. Go ahead. Okay.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is LaDonna Ann Portillo Vilpando Valderrama ex Mangosing. I use LaDonna Valderrama. I lost my job in January 2025. I have been living in my car for a little over a year. Now, I became homeless in January 2024 thanks to safe parking and free food, clothing, and free showering. I have been safe and homeless in my car. And of course, the hot meals at St. Vincent de Paul's and the Neil Good Day Center helped in navigating my homelessness. Great staff, security, maintenance, and now remodeling workers. A friend of a friend offered a room for me for 2 nights where my car was repoed in the parking lot of Motel 6 with all my belongings. After, at St. Vincent's, at Father Joe's Village, where I went due to inclement weather, I was turned away because of over-occupancy. I broke my arm that morning at Central Branch Library on Park Boulevard. I slipped and broke my arm after the ambulance, hospital, emergency room, x-rays, and a ride back from Lyft to Father Joe's Village. I am now navigating what is Paul Marable Center residency at Father Joe's Village. Realizing I lost my mom and dad in 06 and 07. I've been navigating the homeless, the San Diego homeless since then, and I will be suing Dr. Jerome Robinson, CVS, who has been in bankruptcy for 2 years, and Paradise Valley Hospital, and perhaps Dr. Jerome Cowley, Dr. Leon Cowley, for the death of my parents in 06 and 07. I'm suing each for each parent $500 million.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's up.
And
Thank
to
you.
close Paradise Valley Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from our final in-person speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Sarah. I'm here with my 2 probation officers retired from many years ago who can attest to my successful completion of probation, along with another witness, Julie Morris, who currently stayed at the shelter. The point of my statement is to suggest special requirements and better discernment on who they hire at the local shelters off a project. Because of staff not being nice, it led to I and another resident feeling overwhelmed, oppressed, not considered, rejected, judgment, to the point we both trauma bonded and got married. This all occurred due to high levels of anxiety and stress caused by staff to look for comfort in each other. Mistreatment continued that we left the shelter. We ended up separating, and just about a week ago, my husband killed himself. I discerned that if we were treated better at Alpha Project, and if they made a better pick on who they hired, we would have never left the shelter, and this could have been prevented. Staff showing up to work as they hang out, treating us as if we were in jail, caused us to go back to the streets. Unfortunately, I endured to the end, but as for my husband, he couldn't take the pain anymore. I couldn't support him because I too was operating off of survival mode. This was all due to lack of the quality of staff who lacked a sense of understanding residents and who don't really care about the residents. They only cared about a check. Lastly, please make better judgment on who you hire in working at these shelters. Look for individuals who have a passion for helping people, who are mentally stable enough to go to work and not bringing their problems from home into the workplace. To not hire individuals with a street mentality or jail mentality, where it makes it hard for the residents at the shelter to get help when addressing an issue about mistreatment or whatever the case may be. This was common due to the street mentality of that if you address a problem, you are looked down on as a snitch. To conclude my statement, I still haven't received housing, and I'm looking into seeking professional medical help caused from oppression and mistreatment at the shelter.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's up. Thank you. We will now hear.
Hold on, ma'am. Where do you live currently? What part of town? I want to figure out which board office would represent you.
I'm staying in El Cajon at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Monica, do you want to say anything?
My staff members in chambers, I would just like, Max, if you could get the contact information for the young lady that just spoke, as well as. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Paul Bold, weird. Who edits these things? The title of the document is County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency, July 2025 draft. It is, of course, only March. Anyway, in general, the report looks very thorough. However, the presentation and programs offered could be improved. In addition, the screening process needs to be really beefed up. I mean, one size doesn't fit all, and the comments I've heard suggest that people are being treated that way. The vouchers are mentioned constantly, and it is confusing as to how much each voucher is worth. The entire rent, partial rent, and are there conditions on its use. There are project-based vouchers for landlords. How do these work? It would be nice to know. And funding, it looks like, all right, wasn't prepared for it. Let's see. So, the project, the vouchers, how do they work? It would be nice if they were explained up front. On the 5-year PHA plan, section D1, an agency goal is to address limited English proficiency, does so by translating all public notices, but only into 9 languages. There should be a translator or 2 available for other.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
It's interesting to see when people come in and really tell you what's going on with these different types of programs. It's nice that you guys are sitting there and potentially going to help them, but will help really come. Who knows? That will be, proven later or whatnot. But I'd like to know how many illegal aliens are you housing with these that are taking from the people that actually need the housing that are from here. And, when we're talking about federal funding being cut, that would potentially be a very big reason to do that. And so it would be your fault if you're going to, be keeping people from being able to get these vouchers and go into housing because of the choices that you've made and who you have given these types of resources to that don't deserve them over people that have been suffering in the community for a very long time. But it just shows when people come forward like that how flawed the system is, how horrible it is that these people, and there's way more people that come in, because most of them can't come in, don't even know when the meetings are, even that you're going to do anything. But the conditions of these, whether it's a shelter or whatever services that are being provided, are really subpar. It's nothing that you guys would even want to engage in. You wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole, but then you wonder why people have a hard time and wanting to accept help is because the help that is given isn't always the best. And a lot of times it puts them in even more dire straits. So, the hope is that you guys can really understand, especially when people come in, how much they are suffering and do something to change the system instead of letting it continue to go down the same path that it is and wonder why so many people suffer. Because we're not offering them something that is actually going to get them out of the situation that they're in, that will help them thrive as a human being. But again, it's a business. So if you guys really wanted to help, you could, but the choice is you don't.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hey, gambler, according to our rules, you guys dead named me. I filled out a new form, different person. I called in for public non-topic. You guys dead me. On top of that, Tara, Monica, both of you know sign language. Congratulations. Signing into each other to disrupt the meeting, that, I believe, is a violation of the Brown Act. I went ahead and threw it on X so that everyone could go ahead and watch Monica sign to Tara, and then Tara repeated it, which resulted in a 5-minute break. That was amazing. I gotta love that. And did you know that ACLU made it so that illegal immigrants get into these low-income housing before the citizens, so that we could go ahead and increase our voter registration corruption? God damn it, ACLU is all over this shit, and you guys refuse to acknowledge registration voter fraud. You guys try to throw me in jail for trying to expose it. You fired me over that, and then you guys lie about a DEI thing about the reason why Michael Vu was demoted on top of registrar voters, and he quickly left because he wants no part of that, because he wants to keep his name clear. But you guys want to go ahead and feed all these lies supplied to you by your highly paid Claudia. That is so friggin' amazing, isn't it? So did you guys have a chance to read the forms on the fact that there is a chance that you will be going to jail from anywhere from 1 to 8 years and be paying $250,000 fine for listening to Claudia's advice? Curiosity. hear an answer from you guys. Any?
Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker. Consuelo, it's your turn to speak. You may be muted.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead and begin your comments.
Okay, great. This is Consuelo. So yes, the people who just spoke in chambers, it's so sad. It's just like a nanofraction of how many people out there are in need. And again, this is a result of the system. You know, it's just more proof of how they're being treated at these facilities, at these temporary shelters. I mean, I've heard it straight from, you know, the people staying there that they are, in fact, being treated very bad, from whether, you know, they can be able to charge their cell phones and, you know, just cooking stuff. It's just it's so messed up, man. And yet we're paying for this. And you guys act like you are going to fix stuff and our money is going to good use, but it's not. It is not. And it's just really, it's pretty messed up. It's beyond messed up that, you know, I mean, there's not people serving time in jail for all this stuff, all this corruption, all these lies. It's just sad, you know. Today is a sad day, hearing that lady, you know, her husband killed himself. It's like, who do we hold accountable for that? You know? And it's like, I mean, she's desperate, you know? It's like, ugh. It's just really sad. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this housing.
All right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Supervisor Tim Desmond.
Yes, thank you. I don't know if our commissioners want to have any input on this before I talk, or Ms. Higgins or Ms. Berry? No?
I can. Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
I would like to echo one of the comments made by the disabled veteran that stood up here. As myself, being a recipient of Section 8 benefits, I too can relate very much to the treatment that he mentioned he received when dealing with case workers or staff at that level of Section 8. It's chronic in that area and definitely does need to be addressed. Yes, thank you.
All right. I did have some comments. Thank you. And thanks, staff, for all of your work on this. I was glad to hear we've helped, or we have 25,000 people being helped. Is that 25,000 people are on vouchers? Or what is that? Where'd that number come from?
Thank you, Supervisor, through the chair. So it's 11,000 households, and it's all the individuals that live in the different households. So the composition of each household is different. So it's 11,000, roughly 11,000 vouchers, and then there's 25,000 people that live on
that are in those 11,000. Okay, those units. And then you've also used in the board letter here, it says we're going to expand, I guess is in the 5-year plan, 11,000 more low-income housing. Is that in the pipeline? What's that 11,000 number there? The agency, the last paragraph right before the recommendations, it says approximately 11,500 low-income households in the county. Oh, is that the number of households, or that are currently, or that's the ones in the pipeline?
That would be a current number, so that's the households maintaining housing assistance for those 11,000 households that are on the program.
Do you have any idea how many are in the pipeline, or how many you expect to bring online in the next 5 years that are already in the permit process, or you don't really have that
Thank you for the question, Supervisor. Through the chair. So the number of people that may be pulled from the Section 8 wait list or that will participate in the future is all contingent upon federal funding. As of now, we don't have our allocation of federal funding. Any numbers or estimates that we use are based on prior year funding.
Okay, well, I want to thank you, but I had to tell you that I was astonished when I saw it. This is the Housing Choice Voucher Program. This is 800 pages. I don't know how anybody could figure out or understand what it's going to take. And unfortunately, and I know we had a lot of passionate speakers here that, it's very heartfelt. I have people calling my office, and they say, my mother, my aunt, my nephew, whoever has been on the wait list for years. So is it there's not enough vouchers, not enough housing, not enough landlords, all of the above? Because we have trouble. Nobody wants any housing built near them in the county. But so what's the biggest shortfall? Do we need to build more? Is it more affordable housing or vouchers or what?
So, Supervisor, thank you for the question. So the broader response to the limitation on the Housing Choice Voucher Program is federal funding, because it is completely federally funded. Whatever amount of vouchers that we have allocated to our housing authority is all contingent upon certain variables. Rents in our region, housing inventory, needs, so on and so forth. And so for our region, we have a very low inventory of available renters. It's a very high-priced area, and our allocation of vouchers is constrained by the resources that we receive from the federal government. So our wait list is very lengthy, but we're not able to pull people from the wait list because we don't have sufficient money to be able to allocate money to new voucher holders.
And so this is the money we've been receiving year after year for, I guess, whatever the formula is, or so we haven't been cut off of federal funding now, but it's the money that comes in our allocation every year only allows for so much.
Correct. And so at this point, all we're able to do is project the amount of money that we may receive, and the formulas that derive that are all contingent upon basically current day allocations, and those at this point are unknown.
Does that come from HUD?
Yes, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. I want to thank everyone who came out and called in for public comment. It is especially hard to share your personal stories in public, so I want to thank folks that did that. I think it's really, really unfortunate that folks that came in are the rule and not the exception. And what I mean by that is that we're hearing more and more of folks' stories that really are similar. And so that means that they're, in my mind and in my opinion, sort of a larger systemic problem. And of course, we talked about the money issues, which we could be facing even worse conditions because it is a HUD-funded program, and we have already, HUD is in one of those lists of programs we're kind of projecting cuts to, and which is why yesterday in our presentation I asked for that additional information as you all receive it. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, but that the board at least be notified by memo or otherwise about those cuts when we do find out what they are, because they are coming. We hope that they are not, but they are. I predict that they are, and that we will hear even more stories. But on that, I have a couple of sort of technical questions about the plan, but I have a couple questions that I'll start with that are not technical. And one is, I recall voting on starting a program that would allow folks to open their homes. This was for seniors only, it's for senior placement. And it would allow people to open their homes. I remember we had a robust conversation as a board with Supervisor Anderson saying, I have quite a few folks in my district that may be interested in this. Do we, and this is, I have not asked this ahead of time, right? So if there are no concrete answers here today, that is fine. But as we look toward ways that don't require as much funding to make sure that people are housed in a positive environment where they can thrive and grow, and not a negative environment, which oftentimes comes from congregate shelter. I mean, we basically have 3 places where there's congregate shelter. That's the military jail, and now with our unsheltered folks, right? There's really only 3 real places. So do we have any progress on that program? I recall it just seeming like it would be so long for us to set something like that up. Do we have any idea of where we are and if we can expedite that, especially looking at the cuts to come?
Thank you for the question, Supervisor. Through the chair. So shared housing is an option and it's allowed under the Section 8 program. And also, I believe what many of the things you're describing are part of our Office of Homeless Solutions. Now we've combined the Office of Homeless Solutions into Housing and Community Development Services. So we can definitely explore that and return back with a report to you on the different options that are now available. Obviously, things like the Troy Street that's being proposed in Lemon Grove, and safe parking that has also been approved throughout the region, and the need, as most demonstrated by our wait list on our Section 8 program. So we can definitely return you with information on that.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I do know that we had started working on that particular program around how we match sort of seniors with others who might have a room available or opportunity. So we do have some information and data. I don't have it on the top of my head, but we can certainly make sure we get that to all of you. Yeah.
Okay. And I know quite a bit about the project in Lemon Grove. And about the safe parking lots, but it does seem like those are the only projects that are coming up in our conversations, right? And so obviously the need is great, and we always, in my opinion, need to be looking for what else we can do, because those are moving forward, right? The other question is around folks who, and I have heard this in particular from landlords, people who have welcoming communities that have been able to provide permanent housing for folks who have been unsheltered. But oftentimes there is a transition period that is rough, right, for people who are going into housing on their own permanently after being unsheltered for oftentimes years. Do we have any transition programs within our structure that could help folks with that transition?
Thank you, Supervisor. So the question about transitional housing, of course, there's various interventions.
I'm sorry, just to make sure that I'm being clear. Not necessarily about the housing. This is when people do receive permanent housing. It's about services that will assist in the transition.
Yes. So we have had those types of funding available as ARPA funding was available that now is coming to an end as ARPA is ending. That's definitely a necessary intervention. We see very successful examples of that with the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program, where the VA supplements with navigation services and ongoing services for the participants in VASH. Unfortunately, the Section 8 program overall doesn't necessarily include funding for those types of services. So the way the system is set up is the programs look to the local community to be able to fund those types of activities. And so that would be a discussion as part of our ongoing program for future funding.
Do we have any partnerships with?
We do,
okay.
Yeah. So I think Supervisor, so not necessarily particular to the Section 8 program, which is the Housing Authority's jurisdiction, but in many of our other project-based voucher programs and other programs, we have opportunities to include housing navigation and case management services that can help support during that transitional period.
Okay, what I'm hearing, frankly, is that some of our staff members are telling landlords to just evict people, and I am going to meet with you all a little bit later just to get clarity on that. But I just want to say publicly, don't want that message to be, because it's really hard to get housing. Once we get permanent housing, we want to try to support people through that transition period. Okay, just a quick question. I had a few, but thank you for going back and forth with my staff members on some of those. I'll just ask questions around this, the deconcentration policy. Want to know just a little bit more about that and if we have data on how successful those efforts are.
Thank you, Supervisor. For deconcentration, we look at our households' movements into low poverty areas or higher opportunity areas. And so the trends for the last 3 fiscal years show that the percentage of our housing choice voucher families with children that reside in low poverty areas has increased. That's a good thing. They're moving into those higher income areas. Low poverty areas has increased each period from 36% to 40% to 44%. So we're increasing. We have a good trend in that direction.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I will leave it at that, and I will move the item. We need to approve the plan. Thank you.
Happy to second, but I also have a number of questions. So apologies, there's a lot of questions in various areas. So first wanted to better understand the wait list and how long on average people are on that wait list and how many people we have on that wait list, or maybe not people, maybe people and households.
So the applications, it's over 110,000 households for the housing choice voucher wait list. So
110,000 are on the wait list?
Applications, yes.
Applications, okay. And we have 11,000 people that households we're serving.
That's correct.
So the size of the wait list is 10 times larger than the size of the program itself. Okay. And so what's the average wait time?
So the average wait time at this point is over 15 years, but that continues to grow as we continue not to pull from the wait list. And again, that is fully dependent on our availability of funds from
15 years to wait, okay. And what is the average, I mean, maybe not average, maybe you could tell me for like a 1-person household, a 2-person household, a 4-person household, what's the size of the housing that we're getting these various households into, and what's the size of the assistance that we're providing, the voucher?
So the sizing is dependent on the number of household members. So it depends on
That's what I'm asking. So obviously for one, it's probably 1 bedroom or a studio, but that's what I'm saying. For 4 people, for 2 people, what's the size of the unit, and what is the voucher amount of the voucher?
Right. So currently, what we call our subsidy standard is how we size the voucher. And so for a head of household and their spouse, they get 1 bedroom, and for every other additional member, they get another bedroom for every 2 additional people. So if it's a parent and a child, they would get a 1 bedroom for the parent and 1 bedroom for the child. So that's a 2-bedroom voucher. And so it's 2 additional people per bedroom after that.
Okay. So let's just say for a 3-person household, what's the amount of the voucher that they would receive?
Again, that depends on where they end up renting. So we have small area fair market rents, and so we set higher voucher. The cost of the voucher, the value of the voucher is higher in those low poverty areas. So it very much depends on which community the person decides to live in.
Can you give us some illustrative examples from sort of all of our various districts?
Absolutely. So that will take me just a moment, but the average per unit cost, so the average amount of assistance that we pay on behalf of a household is $1,757, and the average gross rent across the program is about $2,421.
So the rent's about $2,000, we're paying $1,000, so they're paying $1,000 for their rent.
Our cost is on average $1,757 of the $2,400.
Right, so on average, the rent on average is $2,000, and we're paying $1,000, so the household is paying on average $1,000. Is that correct?
It's actually $1,700 for what we're paying, and what they're paying is $2,400, so it's a little bit like $700 is the difference. And generally, that's 30% of their income goes toward the rent.
Okay. So we're paying on average $1,700, you said, or?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have 1,000. So sorry to ask all these questions. It's just we keep talking about this, and obviously we have people with great need, but at the end of the day, we have 1/10 of we're able to even currently meet 1/10 of the need with a 15-year wait list. So this is pretty hard situation. And then I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about what we projecting, whether you, sort of like acknowledging we don't have any idea of what's really happening with budget stuff and HUD, but based on initial reports from Matthew Parr and the EDGA team, whether we anticipate and to what amount we anticipate potential reductions in the amount of our vouchers and what that would do to the number of people we're able to help.
Supervisor, thank you for your question. So what we have now is simply what's the discussions that are in just the general knowledge that we know there's a discussion on a continuing resolution. We know that our initial discussions on funding we received late at the end of last year, and we really have not gotten any guidance from HUD as to what future allocation may or may not be. And so that will very much determine if we can pull individuals from the wait list. The only programs right now that we're able to with certainty continue to lease up is the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program and emergency housing vouchers. Those are the only two that we've gotten clear guidance that we can continue to lease up at the present moment.
So if we have the same allocation as we had last year, we'll continue moving people off the wait list at the pace of every 15 years someone could get off the wait list. If we have less, if we get less, let's say there's a 30% reduction in HUD. I don't know that there will be, I just pulled that number out of the air. What does that mean? Do we then discontinue vouchers for some of the people who currently have them? Like, what does that look like? If all of a sudden, right, you said 1,700 on average, 11,000 households. I can't do the back of the envelope math, but then let's say we have 30% less funding. What does that do? Do 30% of the people lose their voucher?
So it in essence stalls the program. I wouldn't venture to guess beyond the fact that we know that we can't pull any more individuals from our wait list. We know that we would have to recalibrate funding for current participants, and then we would have to take the appropriate steps moving forward based on the allocation that's available.
So basically the sort of contingency planning was no more people get off the wait list. Everyone who is currently getting a voucher would get less, basically, so that we wouldn't discontinue some vouchers, but everyone maybe would get less. And that's how we would move forward if we had a reduction.
Well,
I know that we don't know, but I do think this is worth having this conversation because it is very clear that the possibility exists that these HUD funding will be cut.
Supervisor, it would be a family-by-family analysis. It would be a programmatic review of future allocations of things like project-based vouchers. It would be very much connecting with, for example, the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program with the Veterans Administration. It would very much be at the core level of the program, an analysis of how we would have to proceed to make sure that financially it's sustainable for the existing families on the program, financially sustainable for the other commitments that the program has long term. So it's a difficult spot to be in, to be able to anticipate future service levels without knowing funding at this point, and we're left right now waiting for future guidance from HUD.
And if this year's budget, federal budget, does end up with cuts, which again we don't know, but if it does, when would those go into effect? I mean, when would we then have that impact locally in terms of having reduced voucher money? When would that happen? Like, I mean, I don't mean the exact date, but like roughly.
Yeah, so it's a very difficult position simply because right now we're talking about continuing resolutions, and then we don't really know when a budget may be approved or not approved.
I understand that, but I'm saying once the budget is approved, how soon, how quickly would that impact? Do we have funding for a year and we have like a year ramp to adjust? Is it immediate? Is it the following month? So I'm not asking when Washington will pass a budget. That is something none of us know. I'm saying once that happens, how long until, is our money allocated in a future-facing way? So we already have like a year that they've sent, or is it immediate? Is it right? Like this is the question I'm asking.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's actually any combination thereof. It depends on how the allocation is given to us. So we don't hold money. In other words, we draw it down on a monthly basis. So it could be a green light in essence that says we can proceed with the funding allocation that we know at, let's pretend it's current levels. It could be something that's retroactive. It could be an adjustment to our formula. So it could be any combination thereof.
So it could theoretically go into effect. We might have a month. We might have 30 days to figure it out. It might be like that month we have to change everything. I'm sorry to ask these like very detailed questions, but yeah, I'm really trying to understand. Like, it sounds like we need some kind of contingency plan, and I want to understand how long. A year runway to make a contingency plan is different than a month.
Yeah, Supervisor, I mean, I think theoretically it could be very immediate that we would need to make a plan, or theoretically it could be we have 6 months to a year, and that would all depend on how Congress made those decisions about what options they were going to take about how the funding got allocated. So at this point in time, without knowing what direction that's going to head in, we don't know exactly how long after those decisions got made we would need to make a contingency plan.
Okay, that's helpful. I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I'll speak for myself. As soon as we know, I don't want you all to make a contingency plan and not keep us in the loop. I would want you to come like the next day and say, hey, this is what we're thinking we're going to do. Does this make sense? And get some feedback like in very immediate real time. I don't want to find out at a board meeting in 3 months. I don't know if anyone else would be interested, but that would be important to me. Okay, well, thank you for all that. I appreciate it. I think I would also be interested in better understanding the progress that we've been making on the proposal around shared housing, and that was Supervisor Anderson's idea, and I thought it was a good one for seniors, and I know that we were looking at other populations. I think I had added on to that to look also at students and others, so it wasn't just seniors, but I think it would be helpful to get an update on how that's going. And, you know, I just really appreciate everyone came today to share your stories. I think it's a really hard thing to do. And I think that that this is morally unacceptable, frankly. I mean, to be in a society with so much wealth and so much resources, and there's people who make, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars and own islands in the Caribbean and hide their money in offshore bank accounts, and and then there's people who can't even put a roof over their heads. I think it's absolutely wrong. It's immoral, and we have to do better. And I don't say this to you. I say this to all of us, that we have to do better. So, thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you. I just had a couple of follow-up questions. As I know in my district we have in Escondido, there's some property that I think it used to be a Live Well Center. It's across from the old hospital, downtown Escondido. That's supposed that senior housing is potentially coming in on that property. And then I know we also bought some property in Fallbrook, which is I don't know if that's been deemed affordable housing or not. But as affordable housing comes along, do people on vouchers, do we allocate any number of units to be Section 8? Or do we, I know it's affordable, so there's different criteria for different levels of affordability. And so, and we hand that off mostly to some other contractor. Somebody comes and bids, or some other affordable housing developer comes in. So how does it, I'm just trying to look, how do we move people off the list? And who gets, how do those places, when we do get them built, get filled, and are they with Section 8 vouchers?
Thank you, Supervisor. So the transformation of excess county property is something that this board has supported, and I think has done a wonderful job. That's one of 11 properties that you're describing.
Those are the ones I know.
And so the financing that goes into development of permanent affordable housing can include project-based vouchers, which again this board has been very supportive of. And so that particular property, I don't think the final financing project has been put together.
The Fallbrook one?
The Escondido site.
Oh, the Escondido. Okay.
The other property you're mentioning, I think, is still in discussion. But that Escondido site, which is a former HHSA facility. So when the financing is finalized, I think that it'll very much be in competition for an allocation of project-based vouchers. And what that does is it does take some of our vouchers that would have been allocated to individuals, and it creates permanent affordable housing. And it's usually a set aside. It's not a complete development that's all project-based vouchers, although it can be. And so throughout the region, we've allocated vouchers. I think you might have the numbers for the different sites that have been allocated PBVs. And it's a very successful way to add a permanent funding stream. Typically, it fills the gap so that affordable housing providers can provide rents on a permanent basis at a much lower level. So I think it's a very successful way to braid resources.
When we go out to bid, can we say, whatever, X% of the units need to be project-based vouchers or housing vouchers or something to that effect? Is there formulas we can put in place before we go out for bid on these projects, or?
So absolutely, yes.
I know money has strings, but I'm just wondering if there's any other ways we can. Like I said, I'm just trying to get people off the list.
I say yes in the sense of it's definitely we offer separate notice of funding availability for project-based vouchers. The beauty of it is, though, that sometimes because the developers are able to braid various financing sources, they may not need our PBVs, and we can allocate them to a different property. So there's a multitude of ways to be able to leverage the project-based vouchers. We will open a notice of funding availability so that different developments can apply for them. And sometimes they're matched to a property. Sometimes other funding sources are used for veterans housing or senior housing, state resources. Typically, it'll include tax credits. So PBVs is one component that can be used in multiple ways for permanent development.
Okay, I guess I'm asking
a different question.
Is can we say on this property that we want, and I know that you have whatever 10% Section 8 housing. Can we do that?
Yes, that's definitely could be.
Or whatever the number is.
Jim,
I'm not trying to, hang on, let me finish. So we're not trying to, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and to keep people moving. So we can do that. And that's all I was trying to get on a particular project. Right. Okay.
I just think there might be a disconnect of the question I think you're asking and with the question that David's answering.
That's what I'm trying for.
And so I think I understand what you're both saying. So let me just try here. I think what David's talking about is financing structure around project-based vouchers. What Jim is asking is a different question, is how do we, or is it possible that if people are on the Section 8 list, that we have coordination, and if you've been on that Section 8 list and a spot opens up in our affordable housing developments, that you could get off the list and into affordable housing.
Or even before we put the note.
Or even before they get on the list. Is there some coordination here around the list, or are these like all different lists, and there's all these different units, or is there a way that you can get off the list and into this housing?
So there's an overlay when, first of all, project-based vouchers are assigned on a competitive basis. Once they're assigned to a particular property, there's a new list created at that property. All of the folks on our Section 8 wait list are eligible to get on that list. So there's an overlay there.
But they're eligible. So this is what I actually think Jim's asking a very good question, an excellent question of like, okay, you get on the Section 8 housing voucher list. Does that mean, is there any mechanism that then if there's something that opens up in any of our units, any of our affordable housing units across the county, but particularly the 11 that we've moved forward on county-owned land that we actually have control over, that you would then be able to get into those units? Or do you have to sign up for each unit specifically, know where those units are, those affordable housing developments are, and be on like 12 lists, right? The 11 developments plus the project-based housing list? Or is there one list that you could then get into any of these housing units if they open up?
Actually, more specifically, can we say, when we have a project, we have the property, can we say we have to have X number of Section 8 housing vouchers units? Can we say that?
So we have to allocate them competitively. So we can't pre-assign to a particular site. And then the other consideration is there's a very practical reason why we first of all, the Housing Choice Voucher Program and all programs, it's a personal choice where people may live. So there's a very practical reason why we can't assign people on our Section 8 wait list to a particular site.
Well, no, we can say, okay, we've got, here's a unit in El Cajon, or here's one in Fallbrook or whatever, start going through the list. Hey, do you want to live there? You want to live there? No? Okay, next. Maybe I'm oversimplifying this because I know it's very complicated.
And that's in essence what happens.
Very normal.
Yeah. So, and maybe I can help clarify a little bit, because I think, Supervisor, the question you're asking is a great one. But
I've heard that, but I can't get an answer.
Well, so I think just because we have an apartment available in one of our public housing sites does
We're
not,
about to build.
we're about to build,
okay.
right? That does not mean that's going to create more opportunities for us to pull people off the Section 8 voucher list. Because we can only pull people off the Section 8 voucher list when we have more funding to distribute more vouchers. So the distribution of vouchers is separate from the availability of housing units.
Okay.
Hold on. That doesn't really make sense, to be completely honest, because the whole point is if we've taken, by the way, I was the one who brought the board letter saying let's allocate more project-based vouchers. We now have 20% project-based vouchers. We had 3% when we started. So this does not make sense to me. If we're using the vouchers to build more units, now there is more housing available.
So that's the difference between the project-based vouchers and the Section 8 vouchers, right? So there's a difference, I think, between how we can utilize our project-based vouchers, but that doesn't necessarily impact the Section 8 voucher list, the housing choice voucher.
But that's the part that I'm not understanding. Why, if we have more housing units that are now available that we built with our project-based vouchers, why wouldn't we first offer them to the individuals that had been on the Section 8 housing list?
Something that may help, Supervisor. Go ahead.
Here, I think I got it, though. I think we don't have the money. We only got so much money for Section 8. So even if we have more units and we don't have the money for Section 8, they're not getting off the list. It really comes down to the dollars. Is that right?
If we could talk, so yeah, I can answer your question, Supervisor.
I just want to weigh in with a little bit of the technical from the regulation standpoint. There are rules around opening new wait lists, and that anybody that's on our housing choice voucher wait list must be notified, and that's a regulation. This is how you process a new wait list for a new project-based development. We make it as easy as we can for the applicants. So it's one single application, and you select which housing choice voucher and any PBVs that you're looking for, or any other programs that you have. And you can update that application if new PBVs come online. So we make it as easy as we can for someone to be able to apply once and have one application in the system and be alerted to any vacancies if you're being pulled from the wait list or if you have a vacancy at a PBV site. That's one thing. Another thing is the response on the, can we just say 10 PBVs per is a requirement. So by regulation, we have to competitively award those, and they have to be reviewed based on certain regulations. So are you deconcentrating poverty? Are you proximity to certain things? So in that way, we have to make it a competitive process. We cannot just say whatever development you bring, we have to evaluate that and competitively assign those vouchers that way.
It explains why this is 800.
That's why.
And Supervisor, just to answer your question, to make sure I answer it, the number of vouchers that we have is a finite number. So whether we use them as housing choice vouchers or we use them as project-based vouchers, we still start from the same number. So we don't increase our number of vouchers by allocating PBVs. Thank you.
Monica, sorry, Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Okay, thank you for that conversation. I think what I got from it, in addition to the details, is that I think we're trying to look at ways to streamline processes for folks who need help. And right now, based on the 800-page plan, which, this is what we do policy, but if for folks that have to go through all of those processes, it can be very discouraging. That is not on you all, but it is a problem from the federal government on down and has been for a very long time, no matter who's in office, right? That the way that we're doing the system now doesn't help with the current issues that we're having in 2025. And we're kind of like layering all of these different things on that original foundation, which that, in my opinion, all needs to be disrupted and broken up so that we can reduce those barriers for people who need help. The reason why I try to come on again really quick is that for the budget conversation, I'm starting to get a little concerned that we will be forced into making decisions about our programs that are sort of half-baked and and made in urgency because of the way that we're receiving information right now from or signaling from what the federal administration and Congress are doing right now. And so what I want to see is for us to start thinking about ways in which we would have to change our programming so that we have those options available to discuss, so that we put ourselves in a position of serving as many people as possible based on their need, even when we are facing cuts. Because right now, I'm concerned that because we don't know, we're kind of like not facing what we could be in a couple of months. And technically, it's very justified because we don't know, but I think our job is to try as much as possible to get ahead as much as possible, even if that's a bunch of, maybe not for the board conversations, but a bunch of theoretical, best case, worst case scenario type, this is what we may have to do, we may not have to do anything at all, right? And so I think I want to encourage that within our bureaucracy because we're going to have to make a lot of decisions around the same time. And I don't think we're putting ourselves in the best mind frame to be able to make the decisions that we could still make with the resources that we are going to have. So I just wanted to add that, and I appreciate it.
I echo those sentiments. Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur, but I think that we need to be more holistic and not just focus on the federal. State cuts are more devastating to us than federal cuts. When we saw the budget yesterday, 2/3 of the money that we received from other government came from the state, not the feds. The feds were only 1/3. When we think about IHSS workers, that's funded through the state. If those folks don't get the service that they're currently provided, that's going to create more homeless and more catastrophe in our community by far, because we're talking about a huge population. And that also unravels, while it's not connected to housing, it unravels if those folks start showing up in our emergency rooms because of failure to have services in their homes. And we don't have the facilities to house these folks that need that help. So I agree with you, but I think that we need to take a holistic approach and look at all of the threats to our ability to provide for our constituents.
Thank you for a very robust and informative discussion. I think what I've gotten from everyone here, really consensus on this board, is contingency planning and trying to get ahead of what may come. Not that we know that it will come, but have some thoughts ahead of time of what some options might be, regardless of the source of the funding, to the extent that we think that there might be cuts coming, and that's obviously particularly relevant to HUD, but as Supervisor Anderson said, it's not limited to that at all. That's first of all, and second of all, I think we're all, very concerned and continue to want to look for alternatives. I heard, Supervisor Montgomery Stepp identified that she's really only heard 2 projects in the pipeline. It would be good to think about what else we could do. So the 11 sites that we've identified, I think it maybe would be helpful to update us all on what the status of those projects are. And I don't just mean are they being built or not, but how many units, at what level, how many of them are going to be affordable. So trying to answer some of Supervisor Desmond's questions regarding, which of these are going to take project-based vouchers. So I think that an update around those 11 sites would be very helpful for all of us in a more detailed way, not just are they moving or not. And then, third of all, to the extent that there's other possibilities or ideas, especially around affordable housing development that you all are thinking about every single day. You're the ones in the weeds that we haven't thought of and haven't come to this board with. I would really encourage, I would really be grateful for, you to come to us and say, hey, what about this? What about that? Let's look at these other ideas. And particularly, starting with the supervisor that the district, that the project would be in, and see if this is something we could move forward. I appreciate what Supervisor Montgomery Stepp's leadership on Lemon Grove. And I think we need to continue looking for those kinds of options. So again, thank you all for a very informative and robust conversation. And thank you for everyone who came down today. And we'll be taking, what is it, a 5-minute recess to reorganize our seats?
Yeah,
is that correct?
Take the vote today.
Okay, so we had a motion by Supervisor Montgomery Stepp and a second by myself to accept this report.
And then we'll go ahead and do a voice vote. Tenant Commissioner Barry?
Yay.
Tenant Commissioner Higgins?
Yay.
Supervisor Anderson?
Aye.
Supervisor Montgomery Stepp?
Yes.
Supervisor Desmond?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer?
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors and tenant commissioners being present voting aye.
Okay, we'll take a very short recess to rearrange our seats, and then we'll reconvene for the remainder of our land use legislative session. Thank you. Okay. We will now proceed with the formation of consent agenda. Hello, we are reconvened. We will now proceed with the formation of the consent agenda, items 1 and 2. All items on the consent agenda are routine and will be acted upon with one motion. Individuals can comment on consent agenda items after the supervisors pull any items they would like for discussion. Supervisor Anderson? Supervisor Desmond?
No items to pull. However, I have a comment on the Tijuana River Emergency Proclamation, item 2. This is on consent. I just wanted to mention that the new administrator, the new EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, recently announced on social media that he was briefed on the crisis via the Tijuana River, and he wants Mexico to step up and get the pollution under control. So I wrote to his office in response, and hopefully in agreeing with him, and offered to meet to discuss and create hopefully some real solutions. I don't think we need any more studies. We know what the problem is, and this has gone on for way too long. So San Diegans, I think we deserve clean beaches, clean ocean water, clean air, free from noxious odors. I think it's unacceptable that Mexico continues to dump raw sewage and untreated stormwater into our region via the Tijuana River. So thankfully, I'm going to look at this as an opportunity to work with the new federal government. I'm going to continue to engage with his office, and hopefully the new EPA director can help us resolve the issue at the border, and we can make some movement on that. So I'm going to continue in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp?
No need to pull anything. I will second.
Thank you. And just Supervisor Desmond, in response to that, maybe the new EPA administrator could come to our Tijuana River Commission oversight hearing that we're holding, that we all move forward. So maybe you can invite him. That would be
have him out
amazing.
anytime.
That would be great. Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion by Supervisor Anderson. Oh, we have to go to public comment. Sorry. Please turn to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We do have 8 total requests to speak on items on the consent agenda, 2 individuals in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. For any individuals that requested to speak on items on the consent agenda, please dial into the conference line now using those instructions that were provided to you. Go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward Cesar Javier and Pamela, I believe it's Ule. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record. Also, when speaking, please identify which items on the consent agenda you are speaking about.
Just a few seconds before my main event, I just want to clarify, I failed to participate in this housing thing. You know, I'm eager to contribute.
I'm sorry,
but anyway,
I have to start your time. This is part of public comment, so your 2 minutes has started.
I understand, because we are on a crisis. Whether we like it or not, population is increasing, including this intrusion to our border. It's a great challenge for planners like us. We are not planning for yesterday, sir, ma'am. We are planning for tomorrow, even today. And my point here at agenda number 1 is we strongly recommend value analysis on stormwater or catch basin incorporated in building design, infrastructure design, for use not only for clean water. Added to this is investment of desalination plants for firefighting and for use of reforestation. If middle countries, desert countries could make greens on desert areas, how can we not? When we have all these resources, we have the mighty Pacific Ocean. Why do we have to buy water to be treated, spend some resources for it, for clean water, when we have also the vast adequate source from the Pacific Ocean? On item number 2, when we say emergency, it calls also for reorganization of lead agencies addressing air pollution, land pollution, water pollution, including ocean pollution. My God, air pollution district must be reorganized it could be implemented by 5 people only within the county of structure.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up. We'll hear from our next speaker.
Thank you, board members, again for listening to me. My name is Pamela Willett. I will be providing statistics on accidents for 2 beats in Valley Center, whereby Oceanside Police Department assists in monitoring and assisting with accidents. The reports are from a statewide system known as SWITTers. I implore you to please pass to build roundabouts in Valley Center to slow the traffic. Valley Center has a total area of approximately 27 miles. The 2 beats are as follows. Beat 027 is only for Valley Center Road. The following stat report is from SWITTers, a statewide system accident report for a 3-year period, showing a total of 291 accidents from January 22 to December 24, noting 2024 is not complete as reports are pending, according to SWITTers headquarters. Of the 291, there are 6 fatal accidents. Of the 291, there were 130 injury accidents. Of the 291, there were 155 property damage accidents. Of the 291, there were 205 injured victim accidents. The second beat, known as Beat 212, covers all other roads in Valley Center boundaries. Again, from SWITTers for that same 3-year period, showing 310 accidents, noting 2024 is not complete as reports are pending. Of the 310 accidents, there are 4 fatal accidents. Of the 310, there are 135 injury accidents. Of the 310, there are 171 property damage accidents. Of the 310, there were 186 injured victim accidents. For the 2 beats, there were a total of 601 accidents in a 3-year period. That averages 17 accidents per month. Of the 601 accidents, 10 fatal accidents occurred, and many were head-on collisions. Please, board, pass to build all roundabouts in VC to slow traffic, avoid head-on collisions, injuries, and deaths. VC residents speed right through the lights, and the lights do not slow traffic.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Paul Bold, you need to renew. Get rid of the poo. Item 2. Item 1. Again, non-routine items like this do not belong on consent. That this is only a concept plan rather than a real plan is a major giveaway that it needs work before it is approved. Words do matter. Please reject this dangerous idea. The plan is to enhance a few miles along one road in one commercial area while ignoring the others and the need for better evacuation. Roundabouts and widened sidewalks would only make evacuation harder in an emergency. Many people are really worried about getting out of there if there's a wildfire with narrower streets and more traffic congestion. Funding would be from public and private sources, many of whom you have little control over and may run out of money before you do. You said the plan would be implemented through grant funding, private funding from new private development, and publicly initiated capital improvement program projects when other funding becomes available. So you don't know where the funding is, and who can tell how long construction might block evacuations. Watch out. Whoever is pushing this doesn't have the interests of the entire region at heart. A dental clinic 250 feet or so from the proposed corridor wrote to you about not knowing how the project would affect the clinic. Writing to you for info is another warning that the project does not really care about the people it might affect. In the summary of the community forums, phase 1 sounds like sand egg when they had.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hey, Jim, are you going to mention anything about the sign language? secret communication, isn't that a Brown Act violation? Or do you not have any balls to defend yourself? So why should we go ahead and promote you to another position? If you do not even want to call out the crimes that your chair is doing and the person right next to you trying to set you up to make you look bad, why is that? And then on top of that, did ACLU make it possible so that we house illegal aliens over the citizens that live here that we are getting thrown out on the street? Why is it that you divert all the funds to help out the citizens that are hurting and then give it to the illegal aliens in the form of vouchers? Why is that? Curiosity. Do you guys want to answer for your crimes now, or should we wait until the DOJ investigation on voter tampering takes place, and then we see that all these organizations tied to the RNC, DNC, are all affiliated with friggin' ACLU, which should be a political party, but it's not, even though that they control over 50% of the people making our laws, where they'll go ahead and act like a good person in front of the public, but behind the eyes, they'll go to another state, make laws to go ahead and force changes that they want in order to basically tear apart our country. So I know that ACLU, go ahead and look at almost every action that they've been taking. All that you guys are doing is promoting the good while you're hiding the bad. Isn't that true? So, A, you could go ahead and do that investigation, or B, I could go ahead and force an investigation. At that point, all four of you are screwed. And ACLU called in May 23rd to get you elected. They increased the total.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Could you imagine if you guys didn't give $6 million of ARPA funds to aid and abet illegal aliens? The people that happen to use the HUD services would actually have a lot more in that little bucket. But why would we do that? Anywho, so yes, it's interesting when you guys want to do things to calm traffic and slow it down. But then you don't think about emergencies and when they come in, and that you don't want to be slowed down. You want to be able to get out as fast as possible when there's a fire. So it's interesting to know that we aren't preparing for that kind of thing. We're just preparing to slow everybody down and make it so that at a snail's pace that they could leave and not be able to evade a fire if they had to. So, I mean, good on you guys for making sure people are safe, right? I mean, you're probably going to put a vest right there, too, just to get the fire burning a little bit quicker so that, we just get rid of those people and we don't have to worry about them anymore. And with the Tijuana River Valley, yes, Jim, good for you for wanting to go ahead and talk to the APA and engage with the federal government. Now that it's changed, it's more on your side of things. But this would lead me into going, if we're going to continue to do studies, that seems more like the predatory practices that were spoken about yesterday with the anytime there's a declared emergency. So, something needs to be done. Someone needs to hold Mexico accountable, and it's nice to see that that's finally going to happen. Yay. Oh, my gosh, it's been forever. But also, how cool would that have been, Joel, if we did get 3 minutes? You almost gave us 3 minutes, and I bet Tara's butthole puckered just a little bit because it's like, oh, my gosh, 3 minutes. I wanted to go down to 1. So that was going to be an interesting meeting having Joel run it. He would have actually had to pay attention. But it was actually nice. So we'll see how things continue to go. But, yeah, 3 minutes would be nice to give back to people, right? I mean, then you really get to hear from the public because that's how you guys base your decisions, correct? Right. Exactly.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Anderson, a second by Supervisor Montgomery Steppe. Do any of my colleagues have any comments? No comments? Okay, great. Then we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, fantastic. We had previously completed all of non-agenda public comment at the beginning of this meeting. So Ryan, unless you tell me otherwise, this meeting is adjourned.
The next regular meeting of the board will take place on Tuesday, April 8th at 10 a.m.